Okay, folks, so this is one of those videos where I just want to kind of sit back and analyze what we've seen so far. We are 6 episodes into this new season, and I just wanted to say that overall, I understand why this season is getting the backlash that it is, due to the fact that you could tell that it is definitely structured differently than how things played out in season 7. I mean, for better or worse, some people just feel like this isn't measuring up. I mean, for the most part, I've been seeing more people lash out at season 8 than even season 7, if you can believe it. But I think for me, something I've noticed amongst the discourse in the fan base is a lot of people not liking the way these characters are being depicted. Granted, that is a similar complaint to season 7, but I just want to focus more on, believe it or not, the secondary characters like, Robin, Penelope, Jordan, Tony, Rich to an extent, and mention some of the main characters as well, because I've made a post about this on social media, and I want to talk about it here, but I kind of broke it down into different sections as to why I feel the way I do about season 8. And I will talk about Zatima because, on Twitter, people like to light me up about how, oh, well, see, there you go again. You're giving grace to Sistas, but you complain about Zatima season 3, not even like 4 episodes in and blah, blah, blah. I have reasons for that. And yet again, it just goes that some people are selective with their outrage because when it comes to Zatima, that season had a piss poor setup. If you actually watch my reviews and stuff, instead of just going, oh, there you go, you hate Fatima, and there you go complaining, do you actually listen to what I say? Not to mention when it comes to Sisters, don't you think I might get tired out? Like, even I can't just sit up here and complain every single week. I'm like, okay, let me try to find the gold nugget in this crap pile. Maybe there's something here. But it's just that a lot of people, I think, are complaining about Sisters, but they don't have legitimate complaints. What I mean by that is you might not like how Rich or Robin or Penelope are acting, but the thing is, I don't think people are taking the time to comprehend why certain characters are acting the way that they are. Zatima's problem was everybody lied to Zach. Everybody has their reasons for why Zach should be kept in the dark about Jeremiah. But the thing is, my biggest gripe was everybody acts like Zach is the one with the problem. And yes, he does have an anger issue as well as the lack of understanding of how to maturely deal with issues like this that won't result in him going back to his old ways and back to jail. Jeremiah did foul. Everybody just making excuses for him. Fatima gaslighting her man, even though Zach literally said, I thought we agreed not to do this to each other. Those are some of my issues with Zatima. With Sisters, I can at least point out that, hey, I understand why you're mad at this character, but did you ever think that when it comes to this season of Sisters, we have to change the way we think? What I mean by that is, I'm not saying you can't point out things you don't like, that you can't point out things and say that this isn't as good as the old stuff. I think the writing is, okay, we as an audience, for the most part, have a lot of the puzzle pieces. We're still missing a couple, like who did the stabbing, who snuck into the hospital room. Sure, we've made dozens of guesses, and let's be real here. Unless they throw us a complete curveball, we're all going to be wrong. But at the very least, we can formulate, okay, how did this person get from point A to point E? Or why is this person not even, relevant at all? Like, are they the mysterious red herring or what? But the number one thing I want to talk about here is the pacing, because we're half a dozen episodes in and we're still on the same day. I mean, at this point, it seems like maybe 2-3 o'clock, give or take, probably a little later because, Michael got out of school. So I imagine it's like, early mid-afternoon right now. And when it comes down to it, season 7, the pacing was just fast paced. What I mean by that is sometimes we have one episode and we'd see the passage of time where it's like 2 to 3 days. But for whatever reason, this season is just taking it way, way, way slower. and it's throwing a lot of us off. I mean, even to the point where I'm like, I didn't notice this until like episode 5 when I saw people comment about it. And on top of that, it's like, Jeremy, you notice they're wearing the same clothes, right? I think because season 7, we got the entire season so fast that detail slipped my mind, because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But what I want to do is not crap on Sistas simply because of the fact that this is not the first time we've seen this done. It's kind of like people that constantly complain about, oh, Karen isn't showing and it's been years, even though it's only been, months in the timeline. I don't fault Sistas. And I talked about this years ago. Melissa from the Haves and the Have-Nots is arguably the biggest offender of this, where Tyler had her pregnant from like what? Season 2 all the way up to when she died in like season 7 or 8. And she was like 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time, and she never showed. She eventually like threw herself off the roof, and then that was the end of her. But I really do think that Sistas gets a lot of flack because, unlike the Haves and the Have-Nots, we get episodes so quickly compared to like, his older shows. So what seems like forever for us is actually only a few weeks, if not a month or two, within the timeline of the series. And then, of course, season 7 like changed the game by giving us a 3-month time skip to kick things off. And then I know we had at least a month and a half pass within that entire season. But in this particular season, it doesn't even seem like we're going to make it past 3 days, let alone a week. So I don't want to fault the show for this, because let's not act like it's the first time. I forgot what season it was, but I do know there was that one stretch of If Loving You Is Wrong. I don't know if it was an entire season or at least a half of a season, but all the events took place on the same night. Wasn't Alex and Alex's baby missing, or Randall missing? It was one of them things. Didn't her racist parents take him or something? I forgot. It was one of those situations. But I know it took place over the same night, and it drove fans nuts. And the Haves and the Have-Nots used to do the same crap as well, where the events of one day would be stretched out over like 5-6 episodes or more. So like I said, when it comes to the pacing, it is noticeable, because I feel like it threw a lot of people off because it's unlike the prior season. But it's not the first Tyler Perry show to do this. Then the next thing about the characters, as I mentioned before, some of them are coming across as annoying, but remember, we as an audience have more knowledge about the events that are going on, not the characters. Like Penelope and Jordan, I keep saying, Andy, this is her fault. Had she had said something about this blackmail and ultimatum stuff not long after it actually happened, she wouldn't look as bad now. Because if you really look at things from their perspective, Andy did screw him over. Yeah, does it seem like Penelope's grasping? Absolutely. Because guess what? She sounds exactly how Andy used to sound whenever someone would try to warn her about Gary, and she would be like, oh no, you're just trying to give me away for Gary so you can have him for yourself. Or, oh no, you just don't want to see me happy. Or, you're jealous because I decided I wouldn't date you. And it's like, that's why you're saying Gary's bad news and this, that, and the third. And she sounded stupid. And what's frustrating is, and Lord knows I do not want to use the word development here, but we've seen some sort of potential shift in the way Andy feels about Gary. But when you look at how she reacted in episode 3 to the whole, I was relieved for a second, but then it didn't last that long, because then I began to think about how he became this. He wasn't always this way and a monster. And I'm like, nah, it's like you want to be with him. I know it. But yeah, it's just that Penelope sounds frustrating because this is who Andy used to be. So seeing her acting like this far into the series, it doesn't make sense. And a lot of people are like, well, you would think that her and Jordan would believe Andy because after everything Gary's done so far, you'd think that Andy's words were the truth. But it's easy to see that they probably aren't thinking completely rationally, because imagine you lost everything, and then the person you thought was on your side seemingly backstab you, which resulted in the guy that you were, both being screwed over by being, stabbed in the chest, while you think she stabbed you in the back. So tell me, if you lost your job, if you were, under investigation for a crime you didn't commit, if you lost your unborn child. Tell me you would be thinking clearly. Tell me you wouldn't be able to, not be able to keep your emotions in check. And then the person who you thought was on your team seems to be double crossing you. So I can completely understand why these two are acting the way they are. Like I said, I know it comes across as annoying. I know, but I get it. I get it. And like I said before, even though Andy told the truth finally, the way she said it, it definitely felt like she was lying, trying to save face, trying to get these two back on her side. I get it because it makes sense. People just don't want to take the time to analyze the scene because of how repetitive and stale it was, which I don't blame you. But yet again, that's why the whole Zatima versus Sistas thing is a discussion worth having, where I don't just crap on one show because I don't like it. I mention my grievances with it because I feel like it's piss poor writing and the way characters are handled. But what do I know? The next point I wanted to make was Robin. Robin, I get it. I mean, yeah, things are looking shady. Yes, I will do a separate video asking the question of, wait a minute, how did he get those pictures? What about the gun? That's a whole nother discussion. But Fatima, it's okay for her to question everybody. It's okay for her to have a suspect board along with Zach. But having some of those same characters actually point the finger at her, why is that a bad thing? I think this is the best thing that could happen. Not because I dislike Fatima, but if you really think about it, don't you think this could be great in-field experience for her? Imagine if she utilizes her resources and her and Zach put their brains together and solve this case. There's nothing like getting real-world experience. Yeah, you can study your books and whatnot, but wouldn't it be interesting if instead of being a lawyer, she opts to, be a detective or something? That'd be kind of wild. I think that'd be pretty sick. It's just one of those things where I'm not crapping on Fatima. I think this is pretty interesting to see a fan favorite character, with her back against the wall. And now she has to use her mind in order to get out of it. You can't always use a gun or a knife to, cut or blast your way out of a situation, because I feel like stripping her down of her usual tactics, because guess what? Her usual tactics is what got her in this mess to begin with the photos and the gun. Now she has to use her mind. It's like, wow, I can't intimidate my way out of this one. I just gotta, focus, use my intelligence, deductive reasoning. I think this is pretty cool. So that's my thought on that. Yeah, the Rich thing, similar to the Penelope and Jordan. If you look at how he's seeing Sabrina in this situation, yeah, it makes it feel like he's being completely neglected. Truly. Because one minute, hey, I can't go to lunch, but then the next she magically pops up with Danny. And yeah, I know these new couples really aren't fan favorites, and I can see why, but hey, that's the way it goes. All right, then Andy, I have no idea. I can't justify the way she's being written or the acting, like, just terrible liar. I don't know what the writers did. I mean, people have been saying since season 1, oh, she's dumb for an attorney, but these writers have really just dialed it up. But the one thing is, I think Andy aside, the Hudson and Hayden factor, I think, are great because they're making solid observations about Andy as a character, how people around her always get screwed over, but she comes out of everything squeaky clean. But now it seems like everything's going to fall apart. Now, she will make partner by the end of the season, but the question is, like, how will that actually happen? Will her name get cleared? Will the truth be revealed? Obviously, yeah, because if she makes partner, that's a given. But I just really feel like unless Marie steps up, because let's say hypothetically Marie was the one that got the stabbing done, and then she threatens to, take her business elsewhere unless Andy's made partner or something. I don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see. I honestly have nothing to say on this. Hayden, yeah, I don't like the way I liked Hayden last season, where it felt like, it was a Tom and Jerry kind of thing between him and Fatima, where it's kind of like they would kind of they really reminded me of Max and Kyle from Living Single. I mean, obviously Kyle was way smoother than Hayden, but what I mean by that is you would have moments where they would throw, shade towards each other, sometimes it's a war of words, but eventually one would get the better of the other with a quip so bad that the audience would just go nuts. And then it's like we move on to the next scene. Or then next thing you know, the next time they have an exchange, somebody gets, the person who lost last time wins the next one. So it felt like, haha, Hayden, egg on your face. Now dude's just a straight up asshole. And I'm like, oh man, this is just like, I get it. You're trying to set him up to eventually, lose, not be partner and everything like that. But to have Fatima being, I don't know, just this downtrodden, even I don't like to see it because of the fact that it just makes the comeuppance feel like a given as opposed to, dang, because like I said before in the season 7 finale, I felt bad. I'm like, yo, Hayden, just stop with the L's, like give him a break. But now it's like, okay, yeah, now I know the season 7 finale where everything was just falling apart. Marie praised Andy. Andy was the one that solved the case. Andy was the one that got the partner recommendation, and and the list goes on. And then of course, him finding out about Tamara and Gary. Yeah, this is just sad. But now it's like, bro, just have you not learned your lesson? Have a bit more decency about yourself. But yeah, and I can go on, but overall, this season is constructed different from season 7. So we still got a ways to go, about 16 episodes. But I do feel like if you look at things a little bit differently, you might see the season for what it is as opposed to what it's not. Now, that doesn't mean I'm still not giving out low scores. But I'm just saying, like, when you look at the way some of these things are put together, it does make more sense. But hey, that's just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.